Hi, it's Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Welcome to a glorious afternoon here in West Norfolk. Sun shining, hardly a breath of wind, birds are singing, all very British and very civilised. So, just doing a little what's happening in the workshop and what's going on sort of video today. And first of all, let's start off with as any of you saw in my videos last week on the Lister LD1 run up. And I did mention about the fact I've been bitten by my Peta A1 engine starting handle. And then I made another video on last Friday about the creaky CIBs and wishbone bushes when I mentioned that I was probably off to the A&E. Well, I did have to go off to the A&E after I finished my job, and an X-ray has revealed that I have a hairline fracture of bone in my hand. Oh, lovely. So they stuck me in a nice wrist splint on a brace device. I've got an additional bandage over the top to try and keep it clean from the inevitable workshop debris. And I've got the joy of that for 2 weeks. It's not actually too bad, it's pretty comfortable actually. I've full use of my fingers, so it's not a problem. And the thumb wiggles all right. So got that for 2 weeks, and they're going to do an evaluation and then probably dispatch me off to the fracture clinic. Whereas the nurse said there's quite a possibility they'll put you in a lovely cast for a couple of weeks or more. So that should be something fun to look forward to. Still, such is life. I've been reviewing what happened actually, and I've been trying to work out how I managed to do this, because I've never had an issue with starting handles before, and particularly its engines have been very friendly. However, I'm thinking back on it, and I do believe it was kind of sort of an effect of the quirk of the starting handle on the Peta A1 engine. All these starting handles do actually have a spring-loaded pull device inside, so that if the engine runs, the shaft rotates, the handle will spin free. This particular Peta engine is also fitted with a kind of a dog clutch inside the engine, where the shaft of the actual shaft the starting handle goes on spins free as well. And I'm going to take you down to the store shed now, show you what I think actually happened. Or I'm pretty certain what happened. And this is the famous store shed. I'll give you a quick tour of that when I finished. Anyhow, here's the engine sitting in the corner. I'm very sorry, Mr. Sorry Engine. I blamed you for the incident, and I don't think you was entirely to blame. In the starting handle, you do have this spring-loaded pull device, which engages in this slot here. Now, you've got another spring on this shaft, and you push this in, and you rotate it, and it locks. You can hear it locking against the pull inside, and then the engine rotates. I'll stick the handle on. I'll give you a demonstration of what I think happened. No, the ignition's not on, and no, I'm not going to do it to the other hand. So any of you waiting for the inevitable event, sorry, you're wrong. So now the pull's engaged and the handle's engaged. Now the shaft's engaged, it's locked in. Now I think what happened, I was going quite quickly with this, and actually it's on compression stroke at the moment. Just spin it back out of the way. Right, get off compression. And I was going quite quickly, trying to really give it some RPM to help it. And I think as it fired, I was coming down like this, and it fired, and of course the shaft disengaged, and I literally went straight down to the full extension of the handle, and as it wouldn't go any further, and I came down on my hand quite hard. And that's what actually happened. So I've done that, it stopped, literally my hand just bent over and my thumb went the other way, and that was a kind of cause and effect. I do remember coming down on it very hard, but I guess I sort of toppled forward as it disengaged. And being, shall we say, a reasonably engineered guy, not being very delicate, I did probably put a lot of weight behind it, and hey ho, there's the results. Never mind, such is. But I'm pretty certain that's what happened, so I'm not too sort of blaming the engine or anything, but it kind of occurred to me that would happen. So, various other projects in the shed. There's a compressor, missing a cylinder, fiddling with, lawnmower engine, List of D, piles of bits, engine parts, car parts, more little engines, stalls, boxes full of stall parts for Transits and Fiestas. That's lots of engine parts in there. Spare 2.5 DI Transit engine for my 97 recovery truck. Miscellaneous boxes of engine parts. Spare gearbox for my Fiesta and washing machine parts and all the other normal things you find in a good man storage shed. And I do know where most of it is actually. Anyhow, let me wander up to the workshop and give you an update on what I'm doing at the moment. As I haven't got a great deal on this week, got a little job which I'll discuss in a minute. I thought I would attempt to save the NHS some money and save myself any more pain. Only joking here really, but and convert one of my other engines to electric start. So I think the Lister G1 was the first one I thought I'd have a go at. Now I've got this is the inner core of a flywheel from a Focus ST170. I cut all the dual mass mechanism off and all the rest of it, just so I've basically got a flexi plate with a ring gear. I took the end off of a Ford Duratec crankshaft, got a couple of scrap ones of these. I chopped it off with the grinder, machined it round, then bored it out to suit the shaft on here, which is 1.5 inches. I couldn't bore it all the way through because this boss here, although it's a different crank and a different flywheel, they do marry up perfectly, and it aligns on the stub here. Now without this, there's no way of aligning the flywheel so it will swing eccentric. I don't think that shaft's likely to bend given the size of it and everything, so shouldn't be a problem. It does actually give me just enough room to sneak the starter motor in here and just clear the block. In fact, I have got the option of mounting the starter down the bottom here if I needed to. I had thought about finding a way of sort of making it go all the way back, but the problem is then I need a reverse rotation starter motor, which is going to have to come in from this direction. So that's going to be a bit tricky finding a reverse starter motor to solve the problem, but I'm going with this idea for now. I've got a couple of these old crankshafts which I've chopped the ends off of, and I've got one set up in the lathe here now which I'm about to bore out this afternoon and get it ready for another engine, because all the listers are 1.5 inches. This is basically what it starts out at. You can see it's been basically brutally chopped off with the grinder. Then you've got to machine this round, clean this face up a little bit. There isn't a great deal to hold it on in the chuck, as you can see at this stage, but it's set up quite accurately. I have actually got a fixed steady which goes around here and clamps on here, and then it bolts to the lathe bed, which will stabilise this. And given this, of course, is a main bearing journal, which is obviously highly accurately ground, it does mean that this runs very, very true. I've got a 15/16 drill which I then drill right through it with, and then I bore it out bit by bit. It is a bit of a tedious process because this machine doesn't actually have the ability to use the power feed. Because when I restored it, I managed to obtain a new one of or have one of these lead screws made, but the two nuts inside the split nuts which run on this were completely destroyed, and trying to find a way of making those is pretty much impossible. So it does require a hell of a lot of backwards and forwards hand work. This is very suitable for a person at the moment who's basically got 1.5 hands, because you know this is all standing here. It's naturally left-handed for this job, and just lean on the tailstock, and it's quite a relaxing process. I'm quite happy to stand there doing that. Got nothing else much to do, and it's hand friendly. I'm not sure which engine this is going on yet, but I'll get it bored out now so it's ready. I haven't got another Ford flywheel upon it yet, but dare say I'll come across one. I have actually got an end of a crankshaft that I took out of a Vauxhall engine. I did a video on stripping earlier this year. She's laying here, and you can see it's been very scientifically hacked off with the grinder. I will also machine this in the same way, and I do actually have a friend of mine is actually giving me a Vauxhall Corsa automatic drive plate, which will go straight on here. So I'll have another starter and drive plate to convert another engine. So it's got a pretty straightforward way of doing it, really, because obviously manufacturing something like this is quite a process. And given this is nice and accurate face here, and you've got a main bearing surface to work from, does ensure you can get these pretty accurate. There's probably always going to be a little bit of run out on them because the poor shafts they're going on are 50, 60, 70 years old, and they've got a few hammer marks in and a few file marks in and whatnot. So there will be some swing out. What I'll probably do is I'll actually fit 3 grub screws around this collar here, equally spaced, so I can basically trim it with the grub screws to get it running true, and then probably bed it on Loctite or engineering adhesive, and that will just take any run out. The one I fitted to my Peta PU8 engine does have a small amount of run out, because I used the original engine, the original boss that was on the engine, and the way they designed that, it wasn't quite running true, but it's near enough for what I need. Now, the other little job I'm doing this week, nothing too much, I'm just MOTing this little Corsa, which actually belongs to the family who had the old Nissan Micra that finally gave up and then revived, and the Kia Venga. I sold this car a year ago. It was one I picked up as an MOT failure with a severe oil leak, a rusty subframe, which is pretty typical on Corsas and Adams of this era, and there was a hole in the sill. I did actually break up another Corsa, nicked the subframe out of it, and I used a bit of the sill and 1 or 2 other bits, and the engine I just regasketed around the bottom. While I was at it, I stuck a timing chain on it, and after they decided they were having the vehicle, I did go right over it and basically used the best of the parts from both vehicles. They're Daughter-owns at the moment. She's learning to drive, and family using it as a little backup car, so it's only done a few thousand miles. Got an ideal little starter car, really, at 1.2. Fairly good shape. It's had a few little dinks along the way. I think I may have gained a new one there. Slightly odd colour, bit of patch of paint on the wheel arch there, and yeah, a few marks, but been a good little car. They're pleased with it. Ideal starter out point for somebody. Cheap to run, cheap to insure, etc, etc. It went through last year's MOT with no advices, so I don't think it'll be a problem this year. The only major job I had to carry out to it so far, it was a fairly big engineering job, was to replace the rear lamp bulb. So it wasn't too strenuous. Anyhow, that's basically what I'm up to. So any sympathy well accepted. A few of my friends have had a bit of laugh at me, sort of thing, and didn't get much sympathy on that score. I tried for it, but it didn't work. But you got to have a go. Anyhow, I hope you've learned something from this, or the ideas or suggestions, or you've had a good laugh at me doing silly things like that. Then hope you got something out of this video. Please like and subscribe. It's totally free, and my numbers are building up nicely, and it really helps. So thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.